He's almost nothing like his mythological counterpart, except that maybe they both sound like James Woods. There's really no way of knowing. Many people are familiar with the Greek gods, but not many know the specifics of where they came from, and there's no way we can explain Hades' messed up origins without touching on his very messed up birth, because that's right, Hades had parents. Before the Olympian gods rose to power, there lived two generations of divine beings, the primordial deities and the Titans. Hades was the fourth child and first son of the Titans Kronos and Rhea, who were essentially the king and queen of the universe. Kronos took that title after overthrowing his father, the previous king Uranus, which he did by castrating him and throwing his balls in the ocean. After assuming power, Kronos learned from his mother Gaia, the earth deity, and his father, who he somehow remained on speaking terms with, that he would one day suffer the same fate and his children would overthrow him. Kronos loved his newfound power and his balls, so to prevent this prophecy from happening, he literally ate his first 5 children: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Yeah, I said Hera's name right this time. Can you believe it? 100 people who commented the same correction in the last video? I'm obviously not as smart as you guys, but I somehow pulled it off. Cue those same people commenting, "Nice try, you pronounced Demeter's name wrong too." When actually I listened to 3 different mythology scholars pronounce her name as Demeter, Demeter, and Demeter. I don't know, maybe there's more than one way to pronounce some of these names that no one was alive to hear pronounced in the first place. Just an idea. Anyway, after the 5th time it happened, Rhea was sick and tired of her husband eating her children. So when baby number 6 came along in the form of Zeus, she gave birth to him in a cave on the island of Crete, where he would go on to be raised in secret. Meanwhile, instead of a baby, she gave Kronos a rock wrapped in cloth, knowing that he'd just devour it immediately without close inspection. And that is exactly what happened. Years passed by, and all the while Zeus was being raised by the nymphs in Crete, his father had no idea. When the young god finally reached adulthood, he learned his true identity as well as what happened to his brothers and sisters, and was determined to free them. Depending on the version, Zeus was given an emetic,
Osiris. Initially the ruler of the gods and then the lord of the underworld. Isis, goddess of nature and magic. Sky. Nut means sky in ancient Egyptian. It is believed that the sky is, in fact, a naked woman shrouded in stars curving above the earth in a plank position or perhaps a down dog position. Some of her titles include Mistress of All, She Who Holds 1,000 Souls, and She Who Protects. According to the Egyptian creation myth, Atum, the creator, created himself out of the chaotic primordial waters of Nun. By creating himself, Atum created being. As he emerged from Nun, he brought with him a hill to stand upon. From that vantage point, Atum made the god of air, Shu, and the goddess of moisture, Tefnut. These two united to create the earth, Geb, and the sky, Nut. Both Geb and Nut are traditionally depicted without clothes on, and it was believed that they were having intercourse continually with Nut lying on top of Geb. Eventually, they had to be separated by air, but before that Nut gave birth to 4 gods. Osiris. Initially the ruler of the gods and then the lord of the underworld. Isis, goddess of nature and magic. Set, god of warfare and destruction. And Nephthys, goddess of water and funeral rites. Some legends tell of a 5th god, Aruaris, who is generally seen as an Egyptian counterpart to the Greek Apollo. The birth of Nut's children did not transpire without a hitch, for their coming into existence greatly angered Ra, the sun god. Some accounts say that Ra is Nut's grandfather. Others say that Nut gives birth to the sun god daily and he passes over her body until he reaches her mouth at sunset. He then passed into her mouth and through her body and is reborn the next morning. Another myth described the sun as sailing up her legs and back in the Atet, Mate.
Once again embracing a multitudinous framework of the divine. Second, we're going to dive into how an ancient form of Egyptian monotheism, as posited by some scholars, might have influenced early Judaism, and, by extension, all of the Abrahamic religion, an 18th dynasty pharaoh who ruled in the 14th century BCE. This theory presents Akhenaten as the founder of monotheism, and thus as potentially a profound influence on nascent Judaism, which, according to the Old Testament, burgeoned around the same time. Though Judaism is a relatively small religion today, there are only about 14 million devotees. Both Christianity and Islam, which combine for about 4 billion devotees worldwide, are derived from it. So if Judaism was influenced by ancient Egyptian monotheism, it would mean that the group of religions that account for more than half of the modern world's religious population was also influenced by it. First, we're going to look at the abrupt transition from polytheism to monotheism, at what this new religion entails.
Of her before or after in the Prose Edda with her as a goddess. There is no story, there is no further description of her realm or her character. Heathens often pray to her for healing and wellness. She is more controversial than one might imagine, though, and the reasons for that come with how little information we have on her, and some of the reasons why that may be. The most direct historical attestation of as a goddess is from the Prose Edda, in which Snorri says that she is the best of physicians among the gods. And that's it. Nothing else is written of her before or after in the Prose Edda with her as a goddess. There is no story, there is no further description of her realm or her character.
No other war would be so important upon the arrival of the Ragnarok. Court was full of other deities that gave even greater prestige to Asgard, the kingdom of the Aesir gods. His court was full of other deities that gave even greater prestige to Odin's kingdom. But there was another kingdom that also had prestige. This kingdom was known as Vanaheimr, the land of the Vanir gods. They competed with the Asgardians for the adoration of mortals. Both kingdoms were coexistent, but the tension between them was constant. The gods of Asgard descended from Vili, Ve, and Odin, who in their early days defeated the giant Ymir. The Vanir had an unknown origin. Besides Odin, Thor and Loki were the most prominent deities in Asgard, whereas in Vanaheimr, Frey, Freya, and Njord stood out. While Asgardians were gods linked to power and war, Vanir were gods of fertility. There was a powerful sorceress, Gullveig, known for her covetousness and love of gold. The gods of Asgard found her insufferable, so they triple burned the witch, but she always came back. The sorceress was an ally of the Vanir gods, who felt flouted by the Asgardians' way of treating her underling. The precarious peace that existed between the Vanir and Aesir fell to shreds, and the first great war between the gods erupted. Odin tossed his powerful spear against the Vanir, a sign that this was not simply a dispute, but a struggle that could decide the world's fate. No other war would be so important upon the arrival of the Ragnarok.
Have been unearthed in Europe, but others have been found as far away as Siberia, extending their distribution across much of Eurasia. In total, some 144 such figurines are known, virtually all of them modest size, between 3 cm and 40 cm or more in height. They are some of the earliest works of prehistoric art. The first Venus figurine was found in about 1864 by Paul Horo in the famous archaeological site of Vézère Valley in southwestern France. The Venus statuette is Upper Paleolithic statuette portraying a woman. Most of them have small heads, wide hips, and legs that taper to a point. These statuettes have been unearthed in Europe, but others have been found as far away as Siberia.
An ancestry with the chimpanzee, which geneticists estimate was about 7 million years ago. So it's close to that common ancestry, but whether it's really on the human line, I think is not yet clear.
So then moving on from that potential first hominin, first human, what's this next skull, the one that we've got on display next?
Yeah, so this is represents the Australopithecine stage, the southern ape stage of evolution. So between about 2 and 4 million years ago, there were creatures living in various parts of Africa, which definitely are on the human line. So their skeletons show that they walked upright.
The idea of magic and sorcery is one that we see fairly often in Greek mythology, mostly because some of the things that we see the gods and goddesses do can only really be described as magical. Now there are a few minor deities that have been associated with magic and sorcery. We've already taken a look at Hecate, the goddess of magic, and today we'll be examining Circe, the goddess of sorcery. She was known to the ancient Greeks as Kirke, but as is common with most of the words in ancient Greek that contained a hard K sound, when they were Latinized and Anglicized, the hard K sound became a soft C, and we now refer to her as Circe. She was a daughter of Helios, the Titan god of the sun, and Perse, one of the many Oceanid nymphs, which meant that she had 2 siblings, Pasiphae, the wife of King Minos, and Aeete, the guardian of the Golden Fleece. Circe appeared in a variety of different forms.
Hey, and welcome back to Wild Mythology. I welcome you to the channel with bread and salt. For today's video, we're going to cover some gods of magic from mythology. But before we get to that, don't forget to join this month's mythology giveaway for Neil Gaiman's book on Norse mythology, an awesome 300-page book filled with the most famous myths, gods, and creatures from Norse mythology. All you have to do to join our giveaway is subscribe and leave a comment on this video. Plus, somewhere in this video is our mythology scavenger, ghosts, the moon, necromancy, witchcraft, and magic in Greek mythology. She was usually depicted as a beautiful goddess holding a pair of torches, a key, or some snakes. She was also known as the triple form goddess and was depicted as such, with either 2 faces growing out of each side of her head or even full bodies connected to her sides. She was also usually accompanied by dogs, which was one of her sacred animals. In mythology, Hecate was the only child of Perseus, the titan of destruction, and Asteria, the titaness of shooting stars. During the war against the Titans, Hecate fought on the side of the gods and was helpful in their victory. She also battled in the war against the giants and defeated the giant Cleitus by lighting him on fire. Many years after the wars, Hecate was in her cave when she suddenly heard a loud scream. Curious.
You're gonna be popular. I'll teach you the proper poise when you talk to boys. Little ways to flirt your glance. Ooh, I'll show you what shoes to wear, how to fix that hair. Everything that really counts to become a palace sister and advisor. There's nobody wiser, not when it comes to popular. I know about popular, and with an assist from me to be who you'll be instead of dreary who you were, well, are. There's nothing that can stop you from becoming popular. La, la, la. We're gonna make you popular. When I see depressing creatures with unprepossessing features, I remind them on their own behalf to think of.
What a lovely little bride I'll make, my dear, I'll look divine. Things are working out according to my ultimate design. Soon I'll have that little mermaid and the ocean will be mine.
You're too late! You're too late!
This new religion entailed, meaning who was worshipped and how it proved short-lived after the empire reverted back to its polytheistic roots, once again embracing a multitudinous framework of the divine. Second, we're going to dive into how an ancient form of Egyptian monotheism, as posited by some scholars, might have influenced early.
every young girl and young guy growing up. I think we've all experienced being an outcast in some form. I myself at school was, I wouldn't say bullied, because I, like Elphaba, would never let myself be bullied or picked on. I used what I had to defer this type of people trying to pick on me from my singing. I love getting green. It's never bothered me. Craig's makes my face, you know, I don't get in, you know, I like to be, I don't want to get into my head, and I need to keep it nice and fresh and loose and open.
We've seen. All our subjects are conditioned for combat, but
we're not telling people what to think. We're just trying to show them how.
she's dreaming. Nightmare? Off the charts.
Scary monsters. Let's amp it up, Delcia may drop.
Hi, my name is Alina, and I would like you to give you a few reasons why you should consider dating a young slave.
Could also lose it later if they were found to have neglected their children in some way, cheated on their husbands, or otherwise stopped exhibiting the traits of the then ideal of a mid-20th century German woman and mother. But this was just one piece of a multifaceted plan to increase birth rates within
the cycles of the moon. We are born here, isn't it? The word samsara does not mean family. It just means cyclical.
To bring yet further torture. On the other hand, for those they wanted to spare the worst, they could deliver a fatal blow during the wheel dropping or iron hitting process, or right after it was over. Unfortunately, most were not so lucky, and the bone breaking was only the beginning, or step 1 of 2 or 3. Following step 1, bodies were typically threaded through the spokes of another wheel. While this would be difficult,
where was she?
Imprisoned in a body. Bethany figured it all out.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Hey.
Adev.
Can I join the fire?
Please sit down. ये क्या था?
ये था वही जो जी था अंदर का.
Some Agori eat rotted meat, rotted food, even human flesh. Even human flesh.
One person told me, after burning human flesh, body flesh, is so tasty. Oh, so sweet and so tasty.
Yeah, it. Let's just do this. All right. Here. A gore literally.
I was under the impression that in a matriarchy, the women would be treated like queens and the men would be doing most of the hard work. But it seems like women are working way harder here.
A typical Mosul first date.
多半都在跟女孩子划船呢。以前走婚的时候都是划船到里面那个草坪里面去玩。有时候有个情人屋嘛，里面草坪里面还有个情人屋，多半都跟女的。
But what was Constantine's goal? Was he trying to change Jesus? Or was he trying to replace him? To answer this question, Simca now looks.
Give it a try.
Frey will encounter numerous points of interest in her travels. Many of these landmarks and locations have been corrupted or overrun with corrupted enemies.
Everyone, most of you know me as Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX. Today, our team decided
Late Bronze Age settlement.
This had stood at the time the Trojan War was supposed to have taken place. It consists of 9 layers dating back 5,000 years. The excavation centered foremost on layer number 6, the 3,000-year-old late Bronze Age.
Wait, is that? I must stop.
Or orphanages. They were industrial schools. They were like workhouses. Oh, you're there because your mother didn't want to look after you. I never met my father. I was never interested in meeting my mother, if I'm really honest.
Rosemary has spent her adult life trying to trace records of her father, but it's almost impossible to find anything because all information about him has been redacted by the Irish state.
At 3, I was sent to this dreadful couple. I've got a letter somewhere. This is where she says that we are rotting her beds. I'm not keeping them any longer.
Not any longer.
Yeah, we are filthy, dirty. We're 3 years old. Priests had complete control. They were like gods.
The kidnappers gave authorities only 14 days to secure Ali Aga's release.
Non perdendo la speranza nel senso di umanità di chi abbia responsabilità di questo caso.
The Pope's words took us by surprise. They referenced information that we, Emanuela's family, didn't have. He spoke of those responsible. He implied that Emanuela had been kidnapped. This was an astonishing revelation. But why hadn't the police told us this? And what else might the Pope know about Emanuela's whereabouts? As we struggle to understand,
La ragazza che passava qua prese questa informazione della sala Borromini fosse stata Emanuela Orlando.
Cioè quel pomeriggio?
Il pomeriggio del 22 giugno, sì.
E questa ragazza che le ha chiesto l'informazione era in compagnia?
Era in compagnia di un signore.
L'uomo me lo può descrivere?
No, quest'uomo, diciamo, un uomo di circa 35 anni, alto 1,75 o qualcosa di più, abbastanza snello, lucido, con un viso un po', diciamo, lungo, ma con una stempiatura.
the witness worked with police to create a composite sketch of the man believed to have kidnapped Emanuela. Who is this man?
Consequences, he ignored this completely, and even in 1941 wrote a letter to the Minister of Public Health, Leonardo Conti, stating, "I, as a human being, a Christian, a priest, and a German..."
To de-patterning his client, he would attempt to re-pattern in new thoughts and behaviors.
The CIA funded this experiment because if you could take a person who was an enemy agent, erase that personality and put in a new person,
but are similar to the Gullah, also known as the Geechee people of the southeast coast, who are of African descent, yet distinct from the larger black American ethnic group. The difference being the Gullah are descended from Afro-Caribbean.
Your designs, I said, well, you know, people will always see the beauty that you have left with us all this you have left.
You can look back to the old members' pottery and you see depictions of people. You can look at petroglyphs and rock art, and you see that occurrences in people's lives were being recorded, and there is that presence there that really indicates that people are aware of where they came.
That, you know, their mothers, their grandmas, you know, that this is the way they painted. And so it's, you know, it's just passed down, you know.
They were leaving images for other people to see.
Each family has their, you know, own designs, you know, that, you know, their mothers, their grandmas, you know, that this is the way they painted. And so it's, you know, it's just passed down, you know, it's just.
But there is no worry. I was there in time.
Priest, you and those before you have served us well, but war is coming.
Are you German?
Lord, I know he was about to discover everything. But there is no worry. I was there in time.
Wake up.
Lilu.
And you, what is your name? You understand? There. Remember? Bada boom. It was wrong to kiss you, but he said wake you up gently. You're right. You're right. Yeah. You might remember me from the cab. Remember? Bada boom. Big bada boom.
Boom.
Boom. Big bada boom in the cab. Here, look.
You've got your review coming up next week, and I can't wait to start checking me off some big fucking boxes. Attitude, 4. Performance, 4. Management skills, 4. Works well with others. Ha! That's a fucking joke. What is this bullshit? Who's this prick? Some loser gets his head blown off in the Metropolitan. Shut the fuck up!
Great, bro. Who's the man?
Ça, je l'assume et je le supporte. Et je me prépare à tous les dangers qui sont liés à ça. C'est ça.
من پیش حاج آقا اینجا تعهد میدم. حاج آقا این موردها که اینا میگن اگر خدا وکیلی برمای خاک پدرم اینجا می‌نویسم امضا میدم. اگر یه مورد از این حرکت
Everyone who was black was in that film. I was 16 at the time, and it struck me, my God, we're all here together.
Of God and be a witch? Yep. How about a church elder who's only ever done good for their community? Sure. Anyone, really. That's why the trials were so dangerous. They were grounded entirely in misperception, manipulation, and mass hysteria. And it was this perception of witchcraft that was central to the outbreak of accusation.
Take that to the transport hub, then cut across to the colony, and then back into Black Iron. Jacob! 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 There's an elevator nearby. We can take that to the transport hub, then cut across to the colony.
What's that?
Arcus. The original colony. The one the prison was built on top of. There's an elevator nearby.
His teaching remained associated with this site, and during the Crusades it became exclusively associated with the teaching of the Lord's Prayer. In 1915, the 4th century church had been partially reconstructed but left unroofed. It provided
YouTube Music Premium lader dig downloade sange og lytte når som helst du vil offline.
So important because their mothers would know something.
The woman who used her political experience when the men most lacked it was Kasem.
I was under the impression that in a matriarchy, the women would be treated like queens.
But what was Constantine's goal?
It's unclear if she couldn't leave or wanted to stay with Jefferson. Some of her children had already left by that time. When the hidden room was discovered at Monticello Plantation, it was revealed that Hemings had 5 children while at the estate. Assuming that Jefferson and Hemings had some sort of relationship between them, historians began to speculate that Jefferson could very plausibly be the father of all of Hemings' children. Given that he was not listed as the father in their birth records, determining paternity wasn't going to be easy. However,
was given an emetic, medicine that makes you puke, by either his mother Rhea or the Titan Oceanus, and he tricked Kronos into drinking it, causing 2 generations of divine beings, the primordial deities and the Titans. Hades was the 4th child and first son of the Titans Kronos and Rhea, who were essentially the king and queen of the universe. Kronos took that title after overthrowing his father, the previous king Uranus, which he did by castrating him and throwing his balls in the ocean. Almost nothing like his mythological counterpart, except that maybe they both sound like James Woods. There's really no way of knowing. Many people are familiar with the Greek gods, but not many know the specifics of where they came from, and there's no way we can explain Hades' messed up origins without touching on his very messed up.
One and a half Mahayugas. That constitutes the time period of roughly one Manu. And after Swayambhu Manu, there were other Manus, Chakshusha Manu and others. And finally it has come to the Vaivasvata Manu, in whose time we...
Everyone in Mathura was scared of his cruel and wicked nature. But there was one person whom Kamsa loved and adored. That was his cousin Devaki, who was a pious and good-natured lady. Devaki's marriage was fixed with a noble man named Vasudeva. The wedding was a real grandeur. After all the rituals were accomplished, Kamsa, who loved his sister dearly, offered to drive the chariot to escort his sister to her in-laws' home.
Was given an emetic, medicine that makes you puke, by either his mother Rhea or the Titan Oceanus, and he tricked Kronos into drinking it, causing him to throw up his Kronos wasn't just going to step aside and let him have it. An epic war between the gods and Titans broke out and lasted for 10 years without either side securing the W. That is, until Zeus traveled to the domain of Tartarus, where the monsters Kronos had imprisoned resided. Zeus released the 100-armed Hecatoncheires and Cyclops, who, as a token of appreciation, gave him thunder and lightning bolts to use as weapons. With their help, the Olympians were successful in overthrowing the Titans and banished everyone that opposed them.
Drink, and I'll water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Before he had finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The woman
Matei, boat until noon, when he entered the Sektet boat and continued his travels until sunset. Egyptian Myths, 2014. In any event, Ra did not want 4 new gods to come into the world and compete with him for Nut's attention. Thus, Ra declared, Nut shall not give birth any day of the year. At this point in time in the early history of the world, the year was 360 days.
Welcome everybody to another video of Ancient Greece Reloaded. Today we will talk about the famous Uranos, the primal Greek god personifying the sky. By the way, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so as to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Uranus, sometimes written Uranos, was the primal Greek god personifying the sky and one of the Greek primordial deities. Uranus.
Mate, boat until noon when he entered the Sektet boat and continued his travels until sunset. Egyptian Myths, 2014. In any event, Ra did not want 4 new gods to come into the world and compete with him for Nut's attention. Thus, Ra declared, Nut shall not give birth any day of the year. At this point in time in the early history of the world, the year was 360 days long. Frustrated, Nut spoke to the god of wisdom, Thoth, in order to devise a plan so that she could give birth to her children. Thoth agreed to help the goddess of the sky. He called to Khonsu, the god of the moon, and challenged him to a game of chance. Khonsu could not resist the challenge, even when Thoth warned him that if he lost, Thoth would get to take part of Khonsu's moonlight. In those days, the light of the moon rivaled even the light of Ra, the sun. Yet after several games of chance, Khonsu lost so much of his moonlight to Thoth that he became the dimmer orb in the sky. Meanwhile, Thoth used the moonlight to create 4, or possibly 5, extra days so that Nut could have her children. When Ra found out the trick Nut had pulled, he was so angry that he separated her from her husband-lover Geb for all eternity by ordering their father, Shu god of the air, to stand forever between the two. Due to her supposed role in the regeneration of the sun each day, Nut came to be considered a protector of souls as they entered the afterlife. She was a friend to the dead, a mother-like guardian, who would help the souls leave the underworld and join her in the stars. For this reason, the inside
Our Muslim brothers and sisters in Yemen are dying and in desperate need of your help.
Worst pandemic that exists in the world today and has been the worst pandemic for a long time is hunger. 800 million people that are expected to struggle with food insecurity over the next decade. You have a doubling of the percentage of those that are going to bed hungry every single night.
This is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world, affecting over 24 million people and 12.4 million children.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to boast about them. Ja'akum ahl al-Yaman. The people of Yemen has come. They're soft-hearted. They have the wisdom, they have the yaqeen, they have the knowledge.
Humanity, with its partners on the ground, is providing life-saving food, water, blankets, and cash assistance and education on your behalf.
Yes, my brothers and sisters, they're doing this on your behalf so that your intention of giving charity and saving lives is being put into action.
And the Prophet ﷺ said he is not a believer who goes to sleep full while his neighbor is hungry. Humanity is looking to make a change, looking to be able to meet the need and to carry out, inshallah ta'ala, the work that we all should be carrying out so that less people from our global humanity go to sleep hungry. So please do, inshallah ta'ala, continue to support humanity. Jazakumullahu khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Manichaeism was an ancient religion, named after the 3rd century visionary and prophet Mani. Among his many titles, he was called both an apostle of Jesus Christ and the Buddha of light. In these 2 titles, we see one of the defining features of Manichaeism. It was a universalist and missionary religion that was carried across the trade routes bridging Europe with Asia. Starting in the Sasanian Empire, it spread westward toward Rome and east toward China, adapting to its cultural surroundings wherever it ended up, including adapting terminology and ideas from Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism. We see this in what is possibly the only surviving Manichaean temple, which houses a statue of Mani appearing as the Buddha. In many respects, Manichaeism was a Silk Road religion. But what was Manichaeism all about? Who was its founder, Mani, and how did it relate to these other religions in antiquity? This episode